Hello everyone, and welcome back to Silent Dales, Dark Tales. To any new listeners, I'm not a historian or a professional researcher and aim to bring you historic stories that otherwise might be lost. Today, we're traveling back more than 250 years, to a crime that shocked the market town of Skipton in 1766. The brutal and still unsolved murder of Dr. William Petty, a respected physician whose life ended on a lonely road under mysterious circumstances. This episode begins with the landscape around Skipton, moves through the town's 18th century character, and then explores the strange and unsettling events surrounding Dr. Petty's death and the ghost story that followed. First, a little bit about Skipton and its surrounds. Skipton sits at the southern edge of the Yorkshire Dales, a landscape of rolling hills, limestone ridges, and quiet valleys. In the 18th century, Skipton was smaller than today, but still busy, a market town of farmers, wool merchants, blacksmiths, and travelers passing through on the road toward the lakes. The River Aire wound through the valley, and the surrounding countryside was dotted with stone cottages, small farms, and narrow lanes bordered by hedgerows. Life was slower, harsher, and shaped by the seasons. It was a place where everyone knew everyone, and where news traveled fast. Skipton in 1766. Skipton in the mid-18th century was a town of contrasts. By day, the market square bustled with traders selling wool, grain, and livestock. By night, the streets grew quiet, lit only by lanterns and the glow from tavern windows. Medicine was limited, travel was slow, and danger often came from isolation, long walks, dark roads, and the ever-present threat of highwaymen. It was in this world that Dr. William Petty lived and worked. The life of Dr. William Petty. Dr. Petty was one of Skipton's few trained physicians. He treated fevers, injuries, infections, and childbirth complications, often with little more than herbal remedies, basic tools, and experience. He was known for his calm manner, his reliability, and his willingness to travel long distances to reach patients in remote farms and cottages. Petty lived near the center of town and often walked the surrounding roads to visit those who needed him. He was well liked, he was trusted, and he was considered a man of good character, which made his murder all the more shocking. On the evening of the 10th of October 1766, Dr. Petty left his home to visit a patient. He walked along a quiet stretch of road just outside Skipton, a place known locally as the Long Causeway. It was dark, the air was cold, and the road was empty. Somewhere along that lonely path, Petty was attacked. He was found the next morning, lying by the roadside. He had been beaten and stabbed. His pockets were turned out, suggesting robbery, but some believed the attack was too violent to be simple theft. The town was horrified. Skipton had no organized police force in 1766. Crimes were investigated by constables, magistrates, and local volunteers. They searched the area, questioned travelers, and looked for anyone who might have had a grudge against the doctor. But the investigation was difficult. There were no witnesses. The road was isolated. The attacker had vanished. Forensic science did not exist, at least not in any meaningful way. Rumors spread quickly. Some said it was a highwayman. Others believed it was someone Petty knew. A few whispered that the attack was planned, not random. But no one was ever arrested. Several theories have survived through local history. 1. A highway robbery, the most common explanation. The Long Causeway was known for travelers being stopped and robbed. 2. A personal grudge. Some believe Petty had angered someone, perhaps through a medical decision or a debt. 3. A planned attack. The violence suggested intent. Some locals believed the killer waited for him, but without evidence, the case went cold. Like many old Yorkshire crimes, the murder of Dr. Petty gave rise to a ghost story. Travelers along the Long Causeway began reporting strange sightings, a man walking ahead of them who vanished when approached, footsteps behind them on an empty road, a figure in old-fashioned clothing standing by the hedgerow, a sudden coldness in the air. Some described seeing a man clutching his chest, stumbling, and then disappearing. The figure became known as the Doctor of the Causeway, where he is most often seen. The bend in the road near the old milestone, the stretch of path leading towards Skipton Woods, the hedgerow near the old quarry, the quiet rise overlooking the Aire Valley. Locals say he appears on cold nights, walking slowly, as if still trying to reach his patient. One of the most repeated stories comes from a traveler in the 19th century who claimed to see a man ahead of him on the road. He called out, but the man did not respond. When he quickened his pace, the figure seemed to glide rather than walk. The traveler reached the bend in the road, and the man was gone. Only silence remained. Another story tells of a farmer who saw a man leaning against the hedge, pale and shaking. When he approached, the figure vanished, leaving the farmer alone in the dark. Ghost stories often survive because they reflect the emotions of the past. Dr. Petty's murder shocked Skipton. It was senseless, violent, and unresolved. The town never found closure. The ghost of the Long Causeway feels like a remnant of that grief. A symbol of a man who died alone on a dark road, still trying to reach the people who needed him. Thank you for joining me for this episode of Silent Dales, Dark Tales. If you found this interesting, please consider subscribing. There are many more forgotten tales waiting to be uncovered. Until next time, stay safe.